All right, and just like that, boom, boom, we are live. Welcome everybody to Wake and Bake episode number 5. Pretty stoked on this little series that we've been doing for the last little bit. We're just kind of waiting for everything to go live and yeah, doing it a little bit differently today, doing it off my webcam. Usually I'm doing it off the telephone, but today I decided let's just try the webcam. Looks like the quality might be a little bit higher. And Kello NOG says hello. Stephen Simmons in the house. Morning. Benji Sweet. Ben V420 is in the house. And I think it's going to be a great wake and bake today on this Wednesday afternoon. Kind of a puff Wednesday wake and bake, if you will. Good morning, David Forker and Adam Z. Grow Love. Federal Bong Inspector's in the house. Well, the federal bong inspector might very well want to be inspecting my bong. I think it's time to, well, blow smoke towards the Vatican, if you will. Blow smoke towards the Vatican. So last night I grabbed a little of that dry sift that I made recently. Someone was asking that I share more of what's going on in my pipe. So this is some 99.9% gland head hash that I've been enjoying quite lovely. In fact, it presses out to a very lovely piece of hash right here. As you can see, quality is definitely on point. Wish the camera would grab it for you. There we go. Yummy. Anyway, I took 3 grams of this and I pressed it through my Sasquatch and I got this. So this is actually a pretty thick little chunk. It's not like thin like normal, the way you would expect it to look this color. But yeah, I pressed out a little of that dry sift and let me tell you, I wish the camera would focus better. There we go. Such a bummer when the camera won't focus. All right, no video. I don't know, Benji Sweet. It looks like there's video here. Oh, in this jar, I believe there's about 17 grams in this jar. 17 grams. Of course, this was the originally 20 grams and down to, I don't even know what. I've been puffing pretty tough on it. So let's have a little wake and bake rip, shall we? Off the Halo dish. We've got the, actually, I'm going to grab my cleaner dabber. We've got the real nice buttery rosin. And like I said, this shit is, ooh, is it nice looking? Kind of sticky too. Yummy. Everyone good? Oh, so other people have no video. I'm not too sure. Yeah, restart it exactly. You'll get the video. It's here. I can assure you I'm broadcasting live right now. So here we go, everybody. Wake and Bake hit number 1 for this beautiful Wednesday at 9:30 in the a.m. Let's do it. Good, Kello, good. When you do it right. Oh my God, was that ever nice? It's rare that I would want to press dry sift of this caliber, but I had to see what was going down. Good stuff, MLPH. Good stuff. We don't see Albert Walker much, DAJ, but we do see the cat piss, absolutely. Oh my gosh, are we still going hard on Corby's grandma? That was just kind of a joke. Can't keep it going longer than it needs to, but hey, that's what happens when you say salty shit on the internet. The odd time, like every time, someone replies back to you with more salty shit. I guess the lesson is, which I learned years ago, I have to say, thank God for websites like Overgrow. I really learned from those websites that being a dick strange thing when it's so much better to just be nice online and humble and kind. What the fuck are we thinking, hey? Good stuff, Gruvonia. Victor Franca is in the house. Salve rapaziada, right? I almost always have to open your videos twice because the first time I open it, it has no video. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know what's going on there. What is my opinion on the Brothership eggs? Well, you know, I don't have a huge opinion. I've seen them. I think they're still pretty expensive for what they are, considering it was some friend of mine who had bought a Brothership Taurus and then bought a DH Gate Taurus, which was a fraction of the price, like $35 or some ridiculous thing. And he basically said that they ripped much the same. I ripped both of them and had a hard time discovering the difference, other than the fact that obviously, you know, there's the mentality where we want to help local, we want to help people that are doing things in the countries that we live in. But, you know, from a perspective of a human being, that's kind of maybe the most ridiculous thing ever. And really, it's a big part of the divide and conquer mentality when they can make you think that, you know, people in your country deserve to be supported more than anyone else in any other country. So it's kind of a bit of a tricky sort of another one of those dichotomous experiences. But I'll tell you, that dry sift rosin was on point. Holy smokums if you got them. See if I can pick this disc up. Boom. That's what I'm talking about right there. Just a couple of grams, that little disc, by the way, 2 grams. Got my new Toro Mac 8 smoking on some East Coast Tangy, right on LPD 98. That's what we like to hear. Good morning from legal Potland, Denver. Well, Kathy Skidmore, good morning from federally legal Canada, which is just one step up in the sense we're still working on our recreational thing, but we allow people from our country to use medicine from east to west, from north to south. One of the problems I have in the US right now is that they're locking people into these states, and thank God more and more states are coming on par. But you get someone like Colton Turner, who's like a 14-year-old kid who's got to leave Indiana and go to Colorado. Thank God for Colorado, but his family couldn't afford, his extended family, grandma and friends, of course, can't afford to go and just move their lives over there. So you have patients almost in like these prisons of these states that allow medical, but are surrounded by states that do not allow medical. It definitely needs to, yes, exactly, Stephen. They are supposed to read that from Parliament today in regards to the Canadian recreational marketplace. Not holding my breath like it's going to be exactly the thing that I want, but it's going to be more than we have currently. And of course, it'll just be more of a fight. People are going to be outraged. People are outraged. They're going to be up in arms about how upset they are about this new regime that's offering a new system. But that's pretty much the way it is all the time. I'm of the mentality that as long as we get more access, that then I support it. And I'll always fight for more access. I repeat myself like a parrot sometimes, but that's how it goes. How do you feel about war about to pop off between the US and North Korea? Well, Funky Wed, I guess what I've learned from their problem reaction solutions is that what they're looking for is a manipulated reaction. And how they do that is they create a monster problem. We react, and then they offer us a solution. It's the problem, reaction, solution. They've been doing it for a very, very, very long time, much longer than America's been a country, or, you know, this goes back a long time. And it's pretty classic. 9/11 was a major problem, reaction, solution. It's almost like experimenting on the mass consciousness of like full countries or the world for that matter. And they've been getting powerful at it with their medias and the way they can hit us through the news and the way they can manipulate our assumptions through the way media is portrayed to us. The worst part about it is thinking that we know better than what everything we know about the war on Korea and America that is about to pop off is fed to us through the media. So it's like a cesspool. Even if there's a couple of gems in there, everyone would notice that if you threw a couple of diamonds into a cesspool, within seconds, those diamonds take on the appearance of everything that's in the cesspool. Whether or not they're not, you know, shit through and through, they're a gem inside, but they still have taken on the appearance of the cesspool. So you got to wonder and you got to worry a little bit about absorbing any of their information as possible, because if you let it in, then you could be in deep trouble. It's scary stuff, really. Let's have another bong rip, shall we? Talk cannabis. Thank you. Mason Prout, Lois Lannis, Ben V420, Pete Alvarez, God bless. Yes, God bless. Joshua Tuggle's in the house. Woody Cooper's in the house. Game Fraction Studios and Sensimilla Genetics. All the good people are here today on Bubble Man's World having a wake and bake with me, and that's cool. We got 171 people watching, and right on is right on. Let's have another blast. I think we're going to go for some Pine Tar Kush dry sift on this particular one. That was the 09 Cookies dry sift rosin. Exactly. I took the 09 Cookies and I hammered it in to a puck of rosin, just a 2-grammer. I did take 3.4 grams of dry sift, and I received an even 2 grams of resin. So what that tells me is a bit surprised. Quality of this dry sift, if it had been grown to say a 9.5 or a 10 out of 10 for its genetic potential and expression potential, I think that we would have gotten 80%. So to give you an idea, we got a little over 50, probably closer to 60%, maybe 65, but really that's 40+%, 35 to 40+% that could have been there had someone been focusing on the resin of the crop instead of, having problems, getting bugs, I'm not sure that there was mildew on this particular plant, but I do believe that he had some whitefly thrips at one point and he got rid of those early on. But little things like that will affect the crop. The tiniest little things and big things will affect the crop monstrously. That was 30 to 40% of the resin weight that is gone from this because, and don't get me wrong, it's still there in the resin, so to speak. You get that thick membrane and the fibrous mat left behind, but it's something that people should be paying more attention to when they're growing cannabis, is that the cannabis itself is really the pizza box and the resin is the pizza inside. It's the plant is the carrier that will bring you your goods, if you will. So I always use the pizza metaphor because I fucking love pizza, I'm not gonna lie. Thanks for all the vids and info, been super helpful. Right on, Fatty Bows. Politics more like silver and galena, cannabis for the win. What about stronger resin production towards harvest time? Well, I mean, there's all these the same way we don't really understand the intricacies of how cannabinoids interact with our endocannabinoid systems, we still don't really understand when and where is the peak moment for what we're looking for. How could we know if we don't know what we're looking for, i.e. how it affects our endocannabinoid system, how it regulates and turns the system on and gets it going, versus paying attention to vegetative yields that aren't going anywhere and that don't really do anything other than fill up a bag and give you a dollar amount. Let me let my dog in because he's freaking out. Sorry about this, guys. Let's get him out of the way. We always got to take care of the puppy dogs. Not that he's a puppy, he's 7 years old, but I hear him out there crying and I got to let him in. So there it is. Shall we have another little rip a dipple? Even make your own pizza. So dough surprisingly is easy to make. Yes, I love making my own pizza, Steven. In fact, if you check out my video, I have a video called Medicated Pizza. And I make a little pizza with some dry sift on top and decarboxylate it in the toaster and go out and enjoy it. It's quite fun. There's a little GoPro pizza dish footage where I pull it out of the toaster and walk down my deck that I have to say, like, as a video editor, there are always moments in the videos that I'm kind of like, yeah, so stoked on. And it's funny because it's not really the same moments that you guys are stoked on, for sure, because usually the things I think you'll comment on, you do not. And the things that I would never think twice about, like when I did my pure joint video, I kind of had a cold at the time, so I had a roll of toilet paper on the side of my desk. I was also using it to clean my dabber. You would not believe the perverted minds of the masses and how many people focused on that being on my desk next to my computer, whereas I didn't even think of it because A, I'm not sitting in front of my computer jerking off with toilet paper, and B, I'm happily married for almost 30 years with a beautiful woman where I just don't have to worry about such things. But it was amazing how many people in computer land are very much worried about such things. It leads you to wonder what they're all up to. Let's have a dab, shall we? Oh yeah, Juan Solario. What's new? Yeah, what's new? Hey, right on talk. I'm glad that that did get you on that. I have tried freeze drying, absolutely. And what I'll say about freeze drying is what I said about it the other day. Do not let it replace your ability to cure and dry resin heads with simple means. So what I mean by that is freeze drying is cool and it's awesome. It's going to suck the moisture out under vacuum. And if you got the lab grade version, which I hope you did, it's quite a bit more expensive than the home version, but the laboratory version, the scientific model, allows you to control the temperatures of each pan independently, and that can be quite important. So it's good, it's fun, I like it. At the same time, you're never going to get the resin to look like this coming out of a freeze dryer. You know, freeze dryer, really what it's doing is it's preserving the terpenes, it's preserving that profile of terpenes in a way that it almost stays clear. You're making it so you're getting it down to temperatures that are, you know, preserving things versus putting them out onto the desiccant that is parchment and cardboard and slowly pulling the water out of. If you want the actual really perfect example, when you get your freeze dryer, freeze dry some bud. Everyone does. It's actually pretty unique to freeze dry bud and then go and make dry sift with it. It's quite something. I have to say there's not a lot has been talked about it, but hopefully I'll make some videos in the near future about that because there's a value to that. But just see the difference between a bud that you freeze dried versus a bud that you cured, and you know, look at which one you really enjoy smoking more. And one is absolutely a commercial product that is meant to extract the water fast, quick out of the material, but in extracting the water out of hash that quick, something happens. Now, I don't know exactly what happens. I'm not going to try and pretend, but there is something different, very different, about curing the material in a desiccant in a cold room, so the water's being pulled slowly over the course of 5 or 6 or 7 days. That's like a slow cure, versus something that's like 18 hours in the freeze dryer, sucked or dry, put it on the shelf within 24 hours. They both have their place. It's a quiver. I don't put one arrow over the other, but I would say I would never choose one over the other. I would always maintain both. And that goes for the desiccant as much as it goes for the freeze dryer. What's going on, Todd Pearl? Welcome, welcome. We're just kicking down some information in regards to drying and curing resin glands. Of course, drying wet resin glands is one thing. There's going to be water on the outside, much like if you dipped a ball into water, there's surface water that needs to go. That's the easiest stuff. That's what most people think they're getting dry when it's gone and the resin seems crispy. But in reality, the resin gland head, the wax membrane that creates the head and holds everything inside, it holds moisture. And the level at which you remove that moisture is the art form that is to produce 6-star bubble hash. Now, you know, I also appreciate colors in my hash, you know, and I like, you know, seeing gland heads that are at all 3 variations of maturity, which is clear, cloudy, and amber. So when I'm under the microscope, you know, of people's hash in this day and age, West Coast Concentrate's a perfect example. They were bringing beautiful orange. This is West Coast Concentrate bubble hash right here, this particular batch. And beautiful amber colored heads. They were curing it out, slow cure over time. They ended up getting a freeze dryer. And now when I photograph their hash, it's quite different. And not only is it different in the sense that the heads are always just white and the color is, you know, it's not like that. You'd have to heat it up to get it to that. But what I've also found is that the freeze dryer seems to literally dissipate the moisture content from capitate stalks, that which the glandular trichome head sits on top. And those stalks are almost like, what's the word? Really not complete versions of themselves, almost like shadows of themselves, fractions of themselves. They're just the shape. I can see them with my macro lens, ones that have stayed behind, but they're not there. They don't affect the melt. It doesn't leave char behind. It's really quite trippy. So these are all the things that I've discovered so far with freeze dryers and the difference between cold curing with desiccants versus freeze drying. Right on, Jason Pope. Glad you're digging it. No, not really talk cannabis. You know, for me, rosin, let's get this straight for sure. Rosin for me has always been something you do with lesser resin. I mean, even this particular resin, right? And the other dry sift, they're 99% 9 heads, but they weren't grown to perfection. One's about a 7 and one's about an 8, and that's why they would yield the smaller amount. So I could consider putting them in, but my 6-star, I would never consider squishing because it's just the best of the best. It's whether I made it with bubble hash or whether I made it with dry sift. And I talked about this yesterday. There's something in the gland head that is left behind in the oil process that you don't get with rosin and BHOs and PHOs and all these different CO2s, but you do get in hash. It's really the difference between why one is hashish and one is oil. You know, and I'm not against oil. I have rosin in my solventless quiver above my head, so I'm definitely down with people enjoying their oil. Dry ice, I would stay away from. I worry about the contaminant that is in the dry ice. So if you put dry ice in a bowl and let it evaporate out to nothing, then take some paper towels, white ones, and wipe the inside of the bowl. You should see like a little bit of an oily residue, which is I believe it's the mystery oil that comes from the CO2 cartridges, as well as the propane cartridges, as well as the butane cartridges. We've talked about this quite a bit. And I believe it was Khaled from Colorado who did the work on mystery oil, spraying all the cans into the bowl, evaporating it, and showing that oil that's left over. The other reason dry ice is really quite terrible is because, you know, the trick with water hash is that you have water present that's going to keep everything afloat. It creates a transfer chamber. And most importantly, because the resin glands are dense and still affected by gravity because of their oil content, they sink in the water. So there's, you know, everything else is floating in the water. So water is a huge part of how you can make 99.9% gland heads. Now, if you get rid of the water and you just keep the cold concept, all of that material that would have stayed afloat is falling into your hash. So of course, the prohibition-based mind, the greedy mind, loves the way it looks when it's raining. When you put in a pound and get like a quarter pound out, it's like, whoa. But really, you're just getting a quarter pound of contaminant, stalks, capitates, cystolith hairs, ground and powderized plant matter, leaves and calyxes. So this isn't getting more. It's actually contaminating your hash, sometimes to the tune of 90% or more, meaning only 10% of the heads of that material are going to be heads. That's terrible, terrible ratio. You know, with farmer's grade hash, you should be in a 20 to 30%. Trim bin gets you up a little more, up to maybe 40%. And that's why people are so stoked with their trim bin sift, you know, until I take it and clean it up to 99.9 heads, separate out all the piles, and then you see, hey, this is like incredible. These particular grams here, just everything else can go into the rosin press, but this is going to be dabbed. So it's important that when you're making great hash that you have access to great material. It's impossible to do otherwise. You know, that's the key. So if you can grow your own, that's huge because it will give you the pathway that you seek to growing the best, unadulterated, perfectly processed, micro-encapsulated resin glands to the tune of 99.999%. That's what I want. That's what I feel. If everyone understood what it was, they would also want. Maybe not at the expense of all the other beautiful things that they love with cannabis, but definitely as an arrow in the quiver. And so that's what drives me right there. I like it. I hope all of you enjoyed this little chat today. I'm not sure how long we chatted for. Doesn't seem like it's been that long, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. I'm not sure if I have anything left to say, and I did say quite a bit in that short period of time. So unfortunately, I'm not going snowmobiling today, so I think I'm actually going to fire up the KTM, throw the GoPro on my chest, and boot up to the waterfall behind my house, maybe have a few dabs up there. bring the camera for you guys. And so I'll post a little video of that later if I manage to make it. It really depends on if the rain continues or not. So thanks for coming out, everybody. Wake and Bake episode 5 is in the bag, the bubble bag, and may the full melt bless your bowl sooner than later. Peace out, everybody.